Welcome to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Here's your host, the Bitcoin Boomer himself, Gary Leland.
And welcome to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. I'm your host, Gary Leland, and yes, if it's not obvious to you, I am a boomer. I like Bitcoin, so I am the Bitcoin Boomer, not you. Well, you might be a Bitcoin Boomer, I don't know, but I definitely am the Bitcoin Boomer. But on our show, all we do here is try to educate you about Bitcoin. We bring on great guests and talk about Bitcoin. We talk about all things Bitcoin, not crypto, but Bitcoin, okay? Because I am a Bitcoiner. I want to thank my great producer over here, Stephanie. She does so much stuff that this show would not happen without her. Stephanie, thanks for coming in and doing what you do all the time. Now, you get all the guest info and do all that stuff. What'd you think of Teresa?
So Teresa's really cool. She looks like on the website, works with lawyers and other people that need all kinds of consulting. So I'm really curious about that, in addition to the Bitcoin, because all those intersections of businesses and industry with Bitcoin is really interesting, especially with all the guests we've had.
Yeah, she definitely does, and that's Teresa Martin from Flipcat Consulting. One of the things I want to ask her, Stephanie, is what is this flip cat? Is she throwing cats in the air? I mean, what is this flip cat around about?
I mean, I've been known to be tempted to flip the cat, but the cat does not want to be flipped.
Yeah, I don't think that's a favorite thing of cats, even if they do land on their feet.
Although I've heard orange cats are cute because they will let you do most anything depending on the orange cat's personality.
What, does that have anything to do with orange pilled, being orange pilled?
Hey, it can. Ooh, that'd be another business website.
Yeah, orange cat.
We could do orange cat, orange pill.
Yeah. So maybe we need to share that with Teresa when she comes on the show. But Teresa is with Flipcat Consulting. We're going to talk about Bitcoin today. Of course, that's what we always talk about. But the Bitcoin conference, the largest conference of the year, just ended up in Nashville, ended up this weekend. And so we're going to talk about the conference. We had RFK there. We had senators there. We had Donald Trump, President Trump was there. We're going to go into what we thought of their conversations. We're not going to talk politics. We're just going to talk about what they said and what we think of what they said. So this is going to be a great show, and it's an in-studio show, which we don't do very many of those, Steph. We definitely mostly Zoom people in. And another thing, Teresa is going to be our guest host when I'm out of town, which seems to be more and more. So I can't wait to get in here and talk to Teresa, talk about Bitcoin, find out what flipping cats is all about, and just have a great show. So please, come back after this commercial break. We bring on Teresa and we talk about this week in Bitcoin. So we'll be right back after these words from our sponsor. Welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. As I said earlier, I'm your host, Gary Leland, the Bitcoin Boomer. I do want to let you know this show is not just for boomers. It just happens I'm a boomer. This show is for anyone, and I mean anyone who's interested in Bitcoin. We'll try to bring you great guests, talk about Bitcoin, explain it to you, and hopefully if you watch this show long enough, you will become a semi-expert on Bitcoin and find it interesting and maybe start investigating it on your own. Now today, I have Teresa Martin from Flipcat Consulting. Going to have to find out where that Flipcat came from, but welcome to the show, Teresa.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Teresa has been helping me for years, and I literally mean years, at BitBlock Boom, which is the Bitcoin conference I do in Dallas, Texas every year. But before we go any further, Teresa, please tell me about yourself. Give our listeners a short bio.
Well, my background is in marketing and business development, and that's what I pretty much concentrate in with my business Flipcat Consulting, which I've had for 12 or 13 years. And for that, I work with small to medium-sized businesses, law firms, because I spent a lot of time in-house handling marketing and business development for law firms. And I also work with startups, including some Bitcoin startups. So for them, I help them consider their concepts, large to small, because marketing is a big umbrella. Some people, when you say marketing, think advertising only or social media only, but it's actually the big umbrella with everything underneath it. And if somebody needed help with designing or developing a website, all the way to the big idea of creating a business from scratch and what do you do and how do you get started, I can help them with all of those topics.
Well, that's a lot to get into there. So let's get into some points of your company you didn't cover. First of all, is there something like a club of people who flip cats in the air? Is that where the flip cat consulting comes from? Because it looks like you're flipping a cat around there in your logo there. So what's the scoop on that?
Well, the legend is that cats always land on their feet. They don't actually, but most of the time they do. It depends on the height. It's a long story. But with the concept that cats always land on their feet, and I like cats, but I only have one. I'm not crazy.
Not a cat lady.
No. When considering my business and thinking about my friends in 2007 and 2008, several of whom had been laid off or weren't getting the jobs that they wanted, I started thinking about how I would like to help them because I've always managed to be the glue. I have a friend over here and a friend there, and I want to introduce them. So part of that made me think about my life and how I've always landed on my feet. So I want to help businesses and their ideas land on their feet. And where that really comes from is when I was age 5, I almost drowned. And when I was 14, I almost died from carbon monoxide poisoning. I have been held up at gunpoint to my head, knife point. So I feel like I've gotten out of those situations. I've landed on my feet, so it's time for me to give back to others.
Well, let's start staying out of the last two situations,
Yes.
the gunpoint and the knife point. Yeah, the other ones were bad enough, but let's stay out of those situations for sure. Now, a couple things you didn't go over, which I do want to make sure people aware of. You do Frisco Bitcoin, which is a luncheon every week, I believe. So where can people find out about that real quick, and what's the scoop?
That is the Frisco Bitcoin Meet Up, and I'm a co-founder with Don Pedro, and we came into the idea of doing that thanks to you. Because we were at a prayer breakfast together that Jimmy Song put on at BitBlock Boom, I believe in 2021. And subsequent to that, we decided to, because we both live near each other in Plano and Frisco. So we are the co-founders of Frisco Bitcoin Meetup, which you can find on Meetup page. Just Google Frisco Bitcoin Meetup and you'll find it. And we meet every Friday from about 11:30 until somebody leaves.
And you have a great barbecue restaurant that has great barbecue, and I've been, and you have a good crowd there every week. So on that, and also you also consult with people, like I know you're working with CAR, with Pleb Labs and stuff like that. So you're also consulting with, I guess, startups. That's kind of what you talked about earlier, I guess. Yeah.
So CAR and I also met at that same prayer breakfast. So again, that kind of comes back to thank you, Gary Leland, for BitBlock Boom. CAR and I have stayed in touch over the last few years, and I've gone down and always supported the Austin Bitcoin Club because it's a wonderful group of people. It's always fun to be down there, good energy. And we stayed in touch, and when he became CEO last year of Pleb Lab, he was one of the 3 founders, but they had a change in the organization and he moved into the CEO role. He reached out to some of his friends and advisors for assistance with the goals that he had in mind, and I happened to be one of the people he reached out to. So I've been helping Pleb Lab for the past year. It has been a lot of work, but a lot of fun, and we have a couple of announcements we'll be making Thursday, well, soon, here in August, at the Austin Bitcoin Club. So look forward to more growth for Pleb Lab.
Well, I like CAR. I think CAR gives me credit for orange pilling him, but I don't know that that's true or not.
I've heard that too.
I think he just says that. Now let me see here. I want to know, what is your orange pill moment? So, talking about orange pilling, when did you find out about Bitcoin, or how?
That is a very good question because I cannot pinpoint it. It's kind of like when people talk about being saved. Some people can put a pin on it and some people say it came over time. And I would have to say that happened for me with Bitcoin because I was on a journey learning about a lot of things. In my role of trying to help my clients, every fall I would follow the people at the bleeding edge in legal marketing and innovation and growth. And at the time in 2012, 13, and 14, a lot was happening in the legal and technology space. There was a nexus there. Part of that was spurred by, what do you call it? It's related to blockchain. It's the contracts.
Smart contracts?
Thank you. Smart contracts. I just couldn't think of the word.
You had half of it.
Yeah. Just help me out here. It's not like I'm an English major and wordsmith or anything. But I'm a boomer, so maybe it's the brain stuff. Anyway, so I was following the people at the bleeding edge of legal tech, and I wanted to bring that information back for my clients so they could stay abreast of what was happening. So I was keeping them kind of at the cutting edge. So every fall I would delve into that so that forecasting for the year ahead, which is pretty typical, could be done. And I noticed some people were talking about smart contracts, blockchain, and that led to conversations about Bitcoin and other crypto coins and altcoins at that time. Also, I was listening to conservative talk radio. And one of the people that I listened to was interviewing people about Bitcoin and wanting to learn more about it, and he was interested in it himself. So some of those things were coming together. Also around that same time, we had conversation, because we're here in Dallas, we were hearing a lot from Mark Cuban about Ethereum. And yeah. And I think I attended something put on by the Blockchain Alliance, not the Texas Blockchain Alliance, but the Texas Blockchain group that was formed back at that time. They've since dissolved. And they held some kind of event and talked about all these topics, including the crypto kitties. And
I remember those.
Yeah.
A lot of people spent a lot of money.
Way back then. So
a lot of people lost a lot of money.
Exactly. So again, it's kind of a mix of law and Bitcoin and so on. So around mid-2016, I was connected to an attorney who was leading a kind of forward-thinking program at the Dallas Bar Association each month to explore emerging technologies. And one of the people that he had in was a founder of a Bitcoin ATM company. And that was kind of the tipping point for me. I was listening to them and checking all the boxes, and based on my research, and I was also attending the Friday lunch happy hour in downtown Dallas that one of our friends put on. Yeah. And you and I had known each other because at that time you were involved with a business with Tony.
Crypto cousins.
And I was on the board with Social Media Dallas. So we had seen each other. I would see you at these lunches that would happen every Friday in downtown Dallas. And so all of these things culminated. So when I heard the ATM guy, I said, that's it. I'm going to go buy some, I'm going to do my homework, and I'm going to start buying Bitcoin. And that was in December of 2016.
So all these things just kind of merged together. And I remember one of the first times I remember seeing you is you as a party, maybe a Christmas party for social media.
Oh, yeah.
And you were loading up all this stuff and this banner and all this stuff. And I came over and I didn't know. I said, you need any help with it? And you're like, nope, got it. And I was like, well, that's a strong woman there.
Well, and I don't mean to do that in a rude way, but if I can do, I never will ask somebody to do something that I can do. I was raised that way. It's just,
on that thought, we're going to have to go to a break. We'll continue that when we come back. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor. And let me tell you, if you know anyone who you think will benefit from this information or is interested in Bitcoin, please share the show with them. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Today we're interviewing Teresa Martin, an old Bitcoin friend of mine with FlipCat Consulting. Going to have a contest soon to see who can do the best job of flipping cats. I think we can make that an Olympic sport. But Teresa, welcome back to the show. One thing I do like to ask everybody that comes on the show is, in your mind, according to Teresa Martin, what is Bitcoin? I get a lot of different answers on this. I get a lot of the same answer too. But what do you consider Bitcoin to actually be?
Considering that you do probably receive some similar answers, or people who go straight to how it is sound money, I'm going to say that it represents a means to better stabilize your future.
Okay. Is that you know where the term sound money comes from?
I should.
Yeah, I didn't know this till last week, and I've been doing this a long time.
It's been a while since I read Safedeen's book.
Well, sound money is when gold was first was used as coins. Some people would melt the gold down and mix it a little bit to make more gold, to get more gold. And you could tell by the way the gold sounded when it hit the table that it was gold, or whether it was mixed with some other metal. So that's why it was sound money. You could hear the...
Well, we're running into that now because our change, quarters, dimes, pennies, they don't sound the same.
They definitely...
They sound, sometimes, in fact, the pennies sound like those little plastic tokens you used to get in games where you get like a yellow token or to move yourself around the board. Yeah. It sounds like a little plastic token.
And old pennies are starting to be worth quite a bit of money.
Yes, buckwheat pennies.
Yeah. Do you know why the coins have the ridges on them?
I should know that.
See, these are little interesting facts.
Yeah.
I'm into weird stuff.
I do know about the where they would scrape off a piece of coin.
Yeah, that's because they'd scrape off the edges. That's why nickels and pennies don't have ridges. Because for copper and nickel or whatever, they never scraped it off. But on silver coins, dimes, quarters, $50, silver dollars, they would scrape off a little bit of the silver. And if you scraped it off 200 silver dollars, you had a silver dollar. But now my question is, I don't know why I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, when I was looking at my change drawer. I saw in my car, I was looking in the console because I couldn't find any cash on me. I left my wallet at home, wanted to get a water. And I'm looking at quarters in there. I'm going, why do these quarters still have ridges on them? I mean, no one possibly
doing that.
is doing that to get whatever they're made out of now. So why do they still have ridges on quarters
It's
and
just
dimes?
how the machines that press them are probably made.
I guess, but they have to make new molds all the time. You think they'd have got away from that. But
For the dates and stuff.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But that's a scoop if you've ever wondered why those ridges are on quarters. And I think that goes back all the way to the Roman times when they would scrape off and the amount of coinage on there. And they're the ones that started debasing the coins and making them less pure silver. So maybe that is the time period the sound money term came from. Now you were this weekend was kind of a big weekend for Bitcoiners. We had the BTC Magazine or Bitcoin Magazine Conference in Nashville. It's usually held every year the last few years in Miami, but this is maybe the 5th year. I can't remember. I've been to every one, but I can't count them up because I'm no boomer. But you were there in town. What was your impression of the Bitcoin Magazine or of the Bitcoin Conference?
It was big, like it's always been big. A big mix of people. I think a lot of people were excited that Donald Trump was going to speak. And because he spoke and that was carried by some of the news outlets, I believe that will give greater exposure to Bitcoin and cause people who have heard about it but haven't done anything about it to possibly start doing a little more homework, maybe look for a local meetup, maybe look for a book or a podcast. I believe that there were some really good presentations made. One of the key presentations that I made sure to attend focused on Free Samurai. And it included 2 attorneys who are working on the case of the 2 gentlemen from Samurai Wallet. And I believe the question, I still need to better understand it to articulate it better, but I believe the key question was Samurai and the reason why they've been jailed. One was held in Portugal. I'm not sure. I think he's been able to come back home. I'm not sure if he's still over in Portugal.
I wouldn't want to be thrown in jail overseas, even though they may have great jails. I don't know, but I'd rather be in the U.S. if I was thrown in jail, I think. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's U.S. or Canada.
Was he attending the Madeira conference or that conference over there, or he just happened to be in Portugal?
I don't know. That's a very good question.
Because a large amount of Bitcoiners were in Portugal, 6 months ago.
And I believe they're trying to build a hub there. So I don't know if that was part of the reason he lived there, but they picked him up, he and another person. And the main question about this situation with Free Samurai, and people can look up the hashtag Free Samurai and find out more, but what the 2 attorneys were explaining, and that more Bitcoiners need to understand, is this was a question of whether or not the Samurai wallet is a money transmitter or was acting as a money transmitter and against the law. So the position of Samurai and their attorneys is that no, the way they function, they are not transmitting money, and they can articulate that specifically of the steps that they take that are in alignment with the law. And so they aim to prove that. And I believe that one of the attorneys is with Reigns in New York City, and the other one is Tor Ekdahl, I believe is his last name. But he's a seasoned attorney and appellate attorney, I believe, if I remember correctly. So that, I think, because I have a background working with attorneys and paying attention to what's going on with law and Bitcoin, I think it was very interesting to watch because it's the tip of the spear. If we don't get that sorted out, if we don't get that one sorted out, then they can just come for pretty much anybody.
Yeah, I'm pretty much not a person that watches sessions. I've been to hundreds and hundreds of conferences, and I've watched a handful of sessions probably, because I'm a big believer that if I go to a conference and spend all that money and all that time to go there, I don't want to sit in a room when I can watch that the next day on YouTube. And so that's where I've already started consuming. And I did make an exception this year and went to the conference first session in a long time. But I do want to find out what's going on with that, so I do want to see that. So thanks for sharing that one with me. I'll make sure and watch that. I did watch, I was telling you earlier, God Bless Bitcoin, which was a movie, I guess. And did they preview that at Nashville? Or had that been previewed already?
No, I think it debuted in Nashville because it was being promoted right around the time that we were going to Nashville in late July. So I believe that the intention of the producers was that it would be debut revealed at Nashville.
Well, I think that was a very good show. It was kind of basic in what it went over, but I think, well, in my case, I have a friend who's trying to find out about Bitcoin, so I sent him the link to that show. And I said, you watch this is the real purpose of Bitcoin, because I think so many people get hung up on the fact that they can make a lot of money with Bitcoins.
Right.
That's their, I can make a lot of money with this, and they really don't understand the whole concept behind Bitcoin, why it was created, why there's a need for it, and these other things. So
I think that's one of the most unique, important principles about Bitcoin. There were a lot of people that seemed to learn during COVID how to slow down, how to spend more time at home, cooking, time with family, and they've held on to that a little bit since the time that we were out in 2020. What Bitcoin does, once you begin to understand the technology and what it means, and then you begin to develop what we call a low time preference, that begins to infect everything else you do. And you begin to deprioritize ephemeral, fleeting things that are trendy and really not important at the end of the day. I think that's a big value of Bitcoin.
yeah, I agree completely. Now, talking on the conference, which we're getting ready to go to the breaks, but so we'll have to continue it then. But you had President Trump there. You had Vivek Ramaswamy there, who ran for president. You had Senator Lummis there. You had Senator Blackburn there out of Tennessee. I mean, we had a lot of politicians at the Nashville conference. If you'd have told me just 3 years ago that we were going to have, and that's not counting all of them, that's just the ones that I met with in person, except for Trump. But you would have told me 3 years ago we're going to have this many people, Robert RFK, at the conference saying we need for the country to start buying Bitcoin, I'd have said, oh, you're crazy. It can't happen that quickly. So even going through the airport when I'm leaving, I see Marsha Blackburn, Senator Blackburn's sign on the wall saying Bitcoin, whatever, and I'm going, and I messaged her son, Chad, going, Chad, we've won.
Yeah, I'm actually not as surprised.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Well, we're going to go to a break, and we're going to come back and talk about the conference some more, and we're going to break down into Trump's speech some when we get back here. So do stay tuned. And like I say always, tell your friends about Bitcoin Boomer Show. Almost lost my mind there because I'm a boomer. Be right back after these words from our sponsor. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show, the show where we tell you about Bitcoin and I share thoughts with myself and other great guests, which speaking of, I have Teresa Martin from Flipcat Consulting, an old friend joining me today. And we were just talking about, before the break, we were talking about the conference in Nashville. I do want to get into the Trump speech because I'm sure that there's a lot to break down there. Whether you like Trump or not is not my point. That I want to talk about, neither on how he acts or doesn't act. I could care less about that in this conversation. My conversation and questions have to do with Bitcoin only, which I think personally, it was a great moment for Bitcoin because, as I told you earlier, my 80-year-old brother during the session texted me, going, I'm watching Trump speak about Bitcoin. I should have been listening to you for a long time, I guess. So a lot of people were made aware that Bitcoin is something besides a thing used for supposedly illegal activities. Right. And a couple of things that he went over that I do want to talk about is a reserve. Now RFK said he wanted to buy 500 Bitcoin a day until we reached as much value in Bitcoin as we have in gold, I believe, if I'm correctly. Trump didn't go that far, but he did want to turn the 250,000 or approximately Bitcoin the U.S. government owns, which is the most owned by any government except China's right behind us. He did want to move that to the National Reserve of the government. What did you think of that thought, first of all?
I think it's interesting. First of all, it's just interesting to have, like you said, politicos talking about Bitcoin in a very productive way, in a thought-provoking way about how is America going to approach Bitcoin as opposed to individuals. And then, of course, he left the announcement to Senator Lummis afterwards.
Well, she announced it at breakfast that morning.
Right, but
Yeah.
as far as like back to back, if people were tuned in, they would have seen him, and then she came right behind
Right.
and made the announcement. I think it's important to have that conversation. I am very wary. I've worked in politics off and on since 1993, 94, from city council all the way up to presidential campaigns. And it's always a good rule of thumb to take stock of what they say, but don't hold your breath, because they're campaign promises. And once you get in, as George W. Bush revealed, once you go into office, you actually learn things about what the president only knows.
Right.
And it may change your perspective on something that you promise or in the way that you promised it, and wind up executing it. So keeping that in mind, I think all of them, they were in front of a Bitcoin crowd. They're going to talk favorably about Bitcoin and make the most logical promises that they can. So I think he did a lot of good being there, as well as the other ones. It raises the bar for people's awareness, which is important.
It is important. So using that same train of thought that all politicians lie when they're running, basically, is how I break that down, which is pretty true for the most part. How do you feel about the statement that he made? It was near the end that we have to free Ross Ulbricht. Do you feel that was the same thing? That would be a lot to go through to say that, and then get his mom all excited and stuff, and then say, it was a political campaign. What did you expect? Which I've heard before from politicians. We were running for president. What do you expect?
I'm trying to think back to how he said it, because I know that a lot of people were very excited, at least in the crowd, in the room, when he said we got to get rid of Gary Gensler or fire Gary Gensler. And people just really clapped for that.
I don't think he was expecting people to be that excited, because he said,
wasn't.
whoa,
Let
me say it again.
And surprisingly, not surprisingly, there were a lot of people in the Bitcoin world, Bitcoin ecosystem, who felt like he should have said more or emphasized more that Ross should be freed. So
it was kind of like near the end, and it was just a statement.
I wonder if it was a toss away.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was a main part of a speech. He's like, okay, here's the bullet points I need to make sure I hit while I'm
There's
here.
a difference between saying, on day one, I will do A, B, and C, versus, oh, and by the way, we ought to do this.
Yeah, I thought he said that on day one he would.
Okay.
But I could be wrong too. There was a lot going on, and there was a lot of people excited in the air. But it was near the end, and it wasn't with the same zeal that the beginning of the speech had.
So my question would be, if I'm a Bitcoiner and I care about that issue, then I'm going to wonder, do I trust Trump because I believe that he cares about family? And it does seem to be
You got a big one.
that he does care a lot about his family, but there's some questions there too. So I think it's one of those, unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait and see.
Well, I think it's just one of those things, you're right, we're going to have to wait and see. For some reason, I just feel like some of those things there'd be no point in saying, because I think I told you earlier during the commercial, while you do have a Bitcoin crowd there, this is being broadcast on national TV or worldwide TV, for all I know. And then you have people who don't know Bitcoin and can be going, well, I don't want to vote for him. He's into the internet magical money. That's a scam. That's a criminals use. That's a pyramid scheme. I bet he would be for a pyramid scheme. That just sounds just like Trump. So I think that could go either way.
Right.
So let's put it this way. I think at least ways his advisors must believe in Bitcoin to be telling him to go after that point.
That is a very important point. So again, going back to I've participated in politics off and on. So in looking at Trump's approach and speaking about Bitcoin, it does seem like, compared to some of the others who last year came and spoke in Miami, they did seem to be pandering to the crowd, which all politicians do. They do it to a degree of, hey, I see that you're in a black shirt with green trim, so I'm going to tell you that I like people in black shirts with green trim today, whereas tomorrow I might be talking to a different crowd. There's a way to talk about someone's interests because you know that they are farmers or they're in elderly crowd and they're worried about benefits and so on. And there's the flip side of that where you're just pandering and lying just because you want to get a vote and you don't really care. I see some of that when people talk about Bitcoin and they're political or any other topic. But with Trump, like you said, I believe that he does have some good, solid people who have a deep understanding of Bitcoin and its promise and what it can do, advising him.
Well, I feel that if Trump, I'm not saying he's orange-pilled, so don't get me wrong, because
Right.
I don't know anything about him. But if he does have a knowledge of Bitcoin, it came recently, I feel like. And the way he presented himself on the topic was actually pretty good, I thought. He may have had a great teleprompter speech written, I don't know. But he came across as pretty good, except with this crowd, he said crypto a couple of times, Bitcoin and crypto, and that everybody's going to be, you're going to be winning so much, making so much money off your Bitcoin, you're going to be telling me, I don't need any more Bitcoin profits. I mean, which was typical Trump.
Exactly.
We're going to be winning so much you don't want to win anymore. So, but all in all, I felt like his speech was coming from someone that had a basic understanding, or that's the way I felt, listening to it, rather than saying they don't know what they're even talking about, And because I saw earlier, he said, I wanted all the Bitcoin that was created be created in the U.S. instead of mined in the U.S. I saw him taking flack about that. And I'm going, well, that's really kind of a small thing for someone who's new into Bitcoin.
Right.
So all in all, I thought he presented himself pretty good to the crowd. But like I said, whether it was a great speechwriter or whether he understood any of it, I have no idea. And
But I think he understood that. I think he understood it enough that he wasn't. I mean, he's pandering. He's going to talk about the topic in front of the crowd, but I don't think it was just a sellout for votes. I think he understands it enough to realize the potential of good that it can do for the country.
Well, I think the potential of good it can do for the world, actually, is what we have to get into. But yeah, I think the dollar really, I don't think it's ever going to be backed by gold again. It may never be backed by anything again,
Right.
Because we've done real well without backing it. It's just a matter of it's very important to the U.S. to keep the U.S. currency, the world currency. We get a lot of stuff that people don't realize from that. And there's a lot of people who want to help eliminate that, for sure. So anything we can do to back the value of what we have in this country, which, like gold, no one knows how much gold we have. I mean, really, they don't. They've never audited Fort Knox, but they know how much Bitcoin they have. They could prove that.
Right.
Maybe that's why people are against it. But we're going to go take a break for our sponsor here, and we'll be right back with more Bitcoin talk right after this break. So I'm going to say this for the third and last time. Share the show with your friends. We want to get more viewers here, and this is good information for everybody to know, because you need to know about something that's going to change the future of the world, and that's what Bitcoin is, in my humble opinion. Be right back after this word from our sponsor. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Today we're joined by Teresa Martin from Flipcat Consulting. Teresa, got a couple questions for you we're going to go over here. And hopefully, I think you'll know all these. What is DCAing? Do you believe in DCAing, dollar cost averaging? And give everybody a brief description in case they've been under a rock and they don't know what that is.
I've been DCAing since 1988. Not in Bitcoin,
Right.
but I understand the practice. The idea is that you set aside a portion of your income, your savings, what's left over at the end of the week, and put that aside. And you're just methodical about it. And so through that, you get dollar cost averaging by saving over time or investing over time. So with Bitcoin, for example, if it's at 20 and you decide you're going to put aside $50 a week, and then it goes up to 30 and you're still doing $50 a week and so on and so forth, you're getting more when it's at 20 than a portion more when it's at 20 than when it's at 30 and grows and so on. But over time, you're still accumulating, and that habit helps keep you on a path of creating savings and investment.
And over time, you get a good deal. And to me, when people always are telling me this crazy stuff, I'm waiting, I think it's going to drop 5%. I'm going, when Bitcoin hits 100,000, 150,000, which I'm not an advisor, But I think these things are all going to happen. 100,000, 200,000, a million, it's just a matter of time.
Right.
When it starts hitting these milestones, you aren't going to care if you bought it 50,000 to 100 or 55,000. You aren't going to care.
Right.
You know, so for people, when they say that, that means they really still haven't got it yet. You know, and maybe they should wait till they get it. I mean, technically, I don't think they should, but maybe they should. Now, on your Twitter page, I saw a quote that you retweeted by Phil Zimmerman. Crypto means cryptography, not cryptocurrency. What does that mean?
I think he was trying to clarify because a lot of people, especially after this conference, when Fox News introduced the conference as saying, well, there are a lot of people here for crypto in Nashville. And it was cringeworthy to me because thanks to you, I'm now a maxi. I never thought I would be. I saw the maxis in the room my first year, and then, yeah, now I am one. And then also in Trump's speech, he said crypto several times.
It was one of the things that I cringed on every time.
Yeah.
Your Bitcoins and crypto are going to be going to the moon.
Yeah, it grates on my skin and, you know, other Bitcoiners. But for those who are new to it, they just think it's all the same. So cryptography is a way to describe the mathematical work that goes on behind the scenes to solve these problems and create what is put on to the blockchain.
Good enough. And then, what are your thoughts on ETFs? Bitcoin ETFs in particular.
Yeah.
I'm not talking gold ETFs, talking Bitcoin ETFs. Do you have any thoughts on those?
Not really, because again, I just buy the coin straight up. However, it may be an entry point. It may be an on-ramp for some people.
Well, I know a relative, I don't need to say which relative, wanted to get into Bitcoin. And he told me, he was asking me, this was before the ETFs came out. He said, I think I'm going to buy some ETFs. So just buy some Bitcoin.
Right.
You know, that was my advice. He goes, well, to buy some, I have to pull it out of my IRAs or whatever, and I'm going to pay 20% capital gain. So I'm already in the hole 20% before I even buy it. So I want to buy ETFs. And I said, well, I really never thought about that.
Right.
You know, because I never pulled anything out. You know, I've just put savings into things like MicroStrategies and Riot or Marathon. I've never thought about pulling it out to buy Bitcoin. I've done that with.
Well, and I think it also depends on the person's situation. You're never supposed to put into the old adages, you're never supposed to put into a risky asset more than 10% of everything that you have. You don't want to go whole hog unless you understand it better. So I think there is an instance where somebody may say, yes, I'll pay those capital gains, because if I believe Bitcoin is going to take off, then rather than being with a third party or where somebody else is managing the fund, in those kind of situations, I'd rather just be my own manager. Then they may just take it out, take the loss, because they figure in the long term they're going to recoup that. Not everybody can do that. So that's why I say it's kind of probably an on-ramp for a more normie type person who doesn't have the disposable income to be able to deal with that kind of tax burden. And so they just want to move that transition over. So there's new products emerging to suit different lifestyles.
Yeah, there also is the fact that a lot of boomers or most people who have a lot in their investments, let's say with Fidelity or Blackwater, are boomers. I mean, let's face it. And a lot of them are not technical enough, I've just recently found out, to hold their own Bitcoin. Right. I have my oldest friend in the world. I talked to him buying Bitcoin back when it was $4,000. And when Coinbase was getting sued by the SEC, I said, Robert, we need to be safe. Have you still got that on Coinbase? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we said his name. I said, do you still have that on Coinbase? He said, yeah. So you need to put it in a wallet. So I hooked him up with a wallet, got his son to help him. And I was talking to him the other day, and he goes, hey, I've been contacting Treasure, and they won't help me at all. I can't find my password or any of my seed phrase words. And I'm going, Robert, do you remember when you did that? It said, write this down and keep it someplace safe. He goes, yeah, I wrote it down. I just don't know where I kept it at. And how can I get that out? And I'm like, I don't know, Robert. I mean, you know, being your own bank is a great power, and with great power comes great responsibility, and you didn't hold up your responsibility part. Hey, we only have about 3 minutes left, so let's get into how can people follow you, links to your lunch, for instance, and anything else that you think people need to know about.
Well, again, we'd love to see people, if they're from out of town, drop by on a Friday, again, at lunchtime at Tender in Frisco, or you can go on the Meetup page, Google Frisco Bitcoin Meetup, you'll find us. Let's see. You can follow me on Twitter at FlipCatLLC. Mostly these days just kind of retweet other people, but sometimes I'll tweet pithy things about law and marketing and business development. LinkedIn, I believe, is Teresa Martin Flipcat. And then, of course, flipcatconsulting.com, although I need to update my website. So that's pretty much everything. I'm on Nostr as well, but I don't know my NPub.
Neither do I.
I know.
Neither do I.
It's like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yes, I'm the same way. Actually, someone maintains I started my Nostr page, but someone else maintains it for me. Because I don't know why I've had a problem with getting into that and keeping up with that. I think I just have too much to keep up with.
It just functions in a little different way.
Yeah, I have too much to keep up with. Before we go, because we do have a couple minutes to left, is there, both of us being boomers, I think that's the first time we've had two boomers on the Bitcoin Boomer Show, at least
Really?
ways in person.
Huh.
Maybe
I'm barely a boomer.
Maybe a Zoomer guest, but not in the center here. Oh, before I do that even, I want to let everybody know that Teresa is going to be our co-host or guest host whenever I'm not here, which seems to be happening more and more. We may end up having to get another guest host even.
Right, if we travel to the same place.
Because we are at a lot of the same places. But is there any one thing you can think of that boomers really should be aware of, since we're both boomers, about Bitcoin that maybe we didn't miss, or you're saying this is why it's important to you?
Well, generally speaking, you would think that most boomers will have some form of savings because they grew up with 401ks and Roths and so on. So why not add to their investment portfolio? If they're skittish about it and they're not sure, but they have investments, why not investigate this as another arrow in their quiver, in their arsenal? Something else to consider.
You don't need to put a ton in it.
No.
I mean, the people I saw a show the other day that if you put $1 into Bitcoin, have you seen that? It showed year by year. If you put $1 into Bitcoin 12 years ago, it's worth $600,000 now. If you put $1 in it.
That's not bad.
And as Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of blockchain and I guess you could say the creator of Bitcoin, said, you never know, this might catch on. You might want to get a little.
Right. And so why not?
Yeah, I'm not telling anyone to throw their life savings or to go as heavy into it as I have.
Exactly.
But, if you can afford it, you might want to put a small bit in there.
Well, and a boomer could put that towards their family. They could put it to a child's college, or if they don't have those two situations, you could always put it towards a foundation or something you care about. So there's purpose in it.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it is a long-term investment, which I think most boomers who have investments or who have saved would be comfortable with.
I agree completely. Well, Teresa, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for offering to step up and try to be the guest host. I'm going to try to do a better job of being here to let everybody know that. I've just been on the go so much. Just ever since I actually retired, I've been traveling too much.
Who knew?
Who knew? Who knew not working would be so much fun, right?
Right.
Yeah. I thought I'd work till I dropped dead. Everybody will be right back after this word from our sponsor, so please stay tuned. See you in a minute. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I really, as I say, this show is just to help educate you, teach you about Bitcoin. I don't have any Bitcoin I want to sell you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to make sure you learn about Bitcoin because I feel like it's very, very important. I want to thank my great producer, Stephanie, here at the BizTV studios. Stephanie, thank you. And what did you think of our guest today?
Teresa was great. I'm looking forward to working with her on the times you want your co-host to step in. I was really excited when I heard that there was a Frisco Plano meetup. Unfortunately, I'm no longer in Frisco and Plano, but I was where my family was. They lived there. But yeah, that's really cool. What do you remember what restaurant or anywhere?
I sure do, and yeah, it's a shame you don't live there anymore because it is a great barbecue. I've been, I don't know how many times, but I know I've been. It has a great crowd there. It's a Tender barbecue restaurant, I believe, up in Frisco, and they have got great barbecue. I can tell you that right now. But most Texas barbecue is pretty good compared to the rest of the world. That's one thing that all people want come here want to get some great Texas barbecue while they're here. I also want to make sure that everybody knows about the meetup I do, meetup.com/bitblockboom. We do a barbecue ourselves once a month though. So do go to meetup.com/bitblockboom and check that out. And I want to make sure you know about my book that I helped co-write, Bitcoin and the American Dream. 8 of us got together and wrote that book. Now, something we did forget to go over with Teresa was that she has a new site coming out, bitcoineditors.com, where she works with book editors or writing books about Bitcoin. Too bad I didn't have her to help with this book. That probably made things a lot easier, but do check out her page, bitcoineditors.com. And I want to really make sure you're familiar with my conference. I've been doing the BitBlock Boom Conference. This will be our 8th year. That's right, 8 years of Bitcoin conferences coming up this April in McKinney, Texas. So do go to bitblockboom.com, get your tickets. They go up at the end of every month, so they're getting ready to go up tomorrow. So do check out bitblockboom.com. You will definitely enjoy it. That's why we've been running for 8 years. People do enjoy it. And follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Gary Leland. That's twitter.com/Gary Leland. And one last link for you, and that's satscardshop.com. Satscardshop.com, the place to buy Sats cards. You'll see what they are when you get to the site because I'm running out of time. So until next week, this is Gary Leland, the Bitcoin Boomer, saying stack those Sats. See you later.